Hello, I'm Brian Brake. This is The Peerless Gamer, where I take myself and hopefully you through a fantastic journey of discovery, a little intrigue, bit of death, sci-fi, hard sci-fi, in the realm of Ironsworn Starforged, written by Sean Tompkins. And so this is episode 1 of our good time, and I hope you've had a chance to listen to the pregame setup and study that we've done that establishes the universe as written. And eventually I'll be asking for your help at some point. If I ever do a live stream of this, I may be asking you for dice rolls, or I may be asking you for ideas on how to get out of these things. And of course, we have our oracles, and we have our location generators, and we have our yes nos, yes ands, yes buts that we'll be able to roll and get our way out of, or get our way into trouble, if you will. So a lot of what I've found when I've watched other actual solo play is it's very much you describe your scene, you describe where you're at, you describe the character's feelings, and you then decide, hey, something's going to happen, or, based on that description, you have what is, a decision to make. There's a decision tree inside of the RP system here that will help guide you, envisioning the current situation, asking questions, and then resolving those through dice rolls. And so my character's name is James Atwood. This is my character, James. As you can see, he is not a young person. Lifespans in the Forge have been somewhat greatly expanded in 250-ish years since we've left our soul system, so technology's gotten better. James lives on Helia Station, has most of his life, with the exception of a small stint where he was, working in tech. And the idea is, he is a little more than what he seems. And due to something that was thrust upon him by an obligation to family or to the organization he used to work at, he shunned it and makes his living now as a trader. And he has a ship that he works on called the Deliverance. It's actually the Wild Deliverance. So he makes his living on Helia Station, and his co-pilot, or engineer in this case, she goes by Slick. She was not born on Helia Station. She's actually from the inner colonies of New Savannah. I imagine her having even though we're in a different galaxy, I imagine her with a slightly southern twang, kind of like a Georgia from New Savannah. You would hear like, Georgia, something like that, a little bit of drawl, a little bit of something there. Roughly 21 years old, has an AI named Wrench, which is a mechanic AI or a technical AI. I have one as well that I'll introduce later. We'll discover the relationship with them. They do have a relationship that I have in my head. It could be from military work. It could be, and now obviously you see the same thing. Being AI treats these a little differently. I asked for an anime style for one and not the other. It may be that I'll change this up, but don't know why she came to Helia Station in this sector. But we'll also probably have time to work that out if and when we continue the current campaign. So the first thing I imagine is James is never wanting to be in the same place for very long. He's very, I would say, almost nomadic. Has been working on the Deliverance for a while, the Wild Deliverance, the ship, as crew member with Slick. The captain of the ship is not around a lot. As a matter of fact, James and Slick work so well together, the captain has found he doesn't necessarily need to go on every trip with Slick. And The captain of the Wild Deliverance has other endeavors and enterprises that are occurring. And the idea for James is that he is working on, he has a savings account that he's using, and his overarching plan is to buy the Wild Deliverance from the captain and start his own trading, a trader, like a free trader. James has been antsy to leave. The cargo in his hold is being loaded, and he's sitting at a bar. Ironically enough, will be our first roll. We're going to set the scene, if you will. So I am using some of the tables inside of the Mythic location table or location crafter book. There are descriptors that are used in there, and they are D100. So you can go buy the book on DriveThruRPG. You can go to Mythic. They have a Patreon. Tina Pigeon has a Patreon. So we're just going to roll a straight D100 twice and see what kind of help set the scene with the bar in question. It could be a Cheers kind of thing, or it could be a really run down, kind of ugly looking thing. So we have 15, which according to this is cautiously. And some of these may not make sense at all, or I'll have to work through and try to figure out what that looks like. And a 7. So cautiously beautiful. No, cautiously beautiful. So what does that mean? In this case, cautiously beautiful for me means maybe, so Helia Station was at one time something else. Maybe it's meant for entertainment. So maybe some of those services still exist, but they're not in the same condition they were, say, 40, 50 years ago. Maybe everything kind of works. Maybe there's some things that are run down. Maybe it's not as well taken care of as it could have been, and it was bought secondhand. So the bar that we're in used to be maybe, I don't want to say a kid's playroom, but something like that, where they had like colorful pictures on the walls, or maybe some decor that has faded over time, and it's not as safe as it once was. There's power fluctuations and things like that, but there's still several areas of the ship. There's VR type environments. There's entertainment arcades and things where people can go to blow off some steam. They have, what the equivalent of 23rd century laser tag, where people can go and work out some frustrations. There's several gyms, but they all have kind of the walls are faded. Maybe they have like, whatever the 22nd century version of Mickey Mouse is, or what have you. And it's maybe some of them is covered up with posters or advertisements, but you can still see stuff in there. And so, he's sitting at a table, he's enjoying his drink. I'm assuming he has an adult beverage or two, the Jack Daniels of the 22nd century. And he gets a bleep from Slick. Hey, cargo's full. Captain says, we're all good to go. He's filled out all the paperwork and we can leave. And, James says, it's about freaking time. I need to get out of here. I've been sitting for too long. And Slick says, yeah, I'm with you. Wrench says that everything's working. The gravity generator's a bit wonky, but we should be able to, be okay until we can get the money to make repairs. James says, I'm hoping that this will be the last run we have before we go out and strike out on our own. Are you with me, Slick? She says, yes, I'm ready to go out and, do something different. Get away from this sector of the galaxy into some place that's a bit nicer. This definitely isn't the inner colonies. What you'll find about the Wild Deliverance is it's also battered and beaten. The sector, or this portion of the outer areas of the Forge, have come out of, about 5 years ago, had finished a major engagement, a war between several corporations for vying for control of various sectors. And so we're far enough away from the inner colonies that a lot of material doesn't make it to us. So there's a bit of a scarcity around here. The payment that our captain wants for the Wild Deliverance is higher than what you would find if you could get to the inner colonies. But the problem is it's very expensive to travel without a ship. James has been locked into this relationship with the captain, and the captain's not a bad person. He's just an entrepreneur, and he wants to make money, and he wants to make something back on this. The Wild Deliverance has also seen its share of issues. There's a recently patched up hole from a catastrophic hull breach that cost them the life of one of the crew members. So that's reason why it's just James and Slick right now. Slick and James saved each other by getting into the life pod that was there until they could get into their environmental suits to patch the system. And James makes his way through the twisting, winding corridors of Helia Station. Guess I should describe Helia Station in some way. I imagine it's cylindrical, probably sitting on its end, in a north-south kind of direction, up and down. It rotates to help simulate gravity because generators of that size for these kinds of systems rarely work well. So James begins walking down the hallway, myriad of hallways to get to the cargo bays where the ships are docked. There's airlocks where the ship lives for all intents and purposes, while the crew is the longshoremen or cargo handlers are moving things in. James has had very little knowledge of what is being shipped to this point. It's just in a bunch of boxes. There's a bill of lading. As long as it's nothing dangerous, usually the captain's pretty good about not having dangerous cargo on the ship that James knows of. I guess the next question is, does James see anybody as he's leaving to go to the Deliverance? Considering he's been here most of his life, I'm saying that yes, that's probably going to might stand a good chance of that happening. So let's see. He meets Shara Janker, who is captain of the Durandal, and you've known Shara for a while. She runs regular, agriculture and farm animals and foodstuffs to, asteroids in the area, to the mining colonies. She's done some Nix Station and Neoma runs. She says, "Hey, be careful out there. I understand you're going to Neoma. There's some gravitational disturbances in the area. You might want to drop out of E-Drive a bit sooner than you expect. It's a little rough in that area." Thanks, Shara. Appreciate that. Thanks for the heads up. Lena's got a special today on couscous, so you might want to go grab that before it ends. And she's like, "Yes, I'll definitely do that." Without any further ado, James continues walking, makes his way to the Deliverance. The longshoremen are setting the tamper-resistant bands on the cargo in the Deliverance's hold, and you see Slick there taking the bill of lading, and she sees you, and she says, "They've loaded up. We're ready to go. The engines are nice and hot. Wrench and I have managed to get a few more megawatts out of the power plant today. Should be a nice, smooth ride." And she hands you the clipboard with, the paperwork necessary for Neoma Station. "I'm ready to get out of here," James says, and thanks the dock worker, and waits for him to leave. Slick says, "Have you talked to the captain?" James says, No, I haven't seen him. What would make this day any different if we didn't see the captain? He probably has left us an email or something letting us know what's going on. Do I notice anything different about the cargo hold? Or do I notice anything different about the cargo itself? Let me see it. 72. Mockingly. 53. Mockingly large. Slick says, for a second there, I thought that this wasn't actually going to make it in. It's so freaking huge that, it's the only thing we have. And James looks and notices it's one large crate. And somebody's taken and putting some googly eyes on it, has put some stickers. The mood on the... What's the mood on Helia Station right now? I'm only going to roll once on one of the descriptor number 2. So, 82. Things are rotten on the ship. So in this case, it would be the longshoremen have had a strike recently, and things had been not running as well, which is one of the reasons that James and Slick have been on the station. The recent collective bargaining agreement has been signed, so everybody's kind of happy and being back to work. But for the last, couple weeks, things have been pretty awful. Trade has ground to a halt, so it was rotten in terms of what has been going on, and hopefully everything's back to work. It was fairly contentious for a while. Nothing was moving. Tempers were flaring. Station administration was unhappy. People who had ships waiting to pick up cargo couldn't leave, and it wasn't a good time. It wasn't a good place to be. You could leave, but where are you going to go? There's nothing to haul. There's nothing to ship. Asteroids needed supplies. So this has been a welcome respite to the last 2 weeks where there hasn't been anything moving. There was some rumor that the collective bargaining agreement was not necessarily needed, that there was other things going on. But station administration is ran by a mega corporation, and so negotiating with them takes time. So the airlock closes, and James says, "Let's fire up the engines and get to Neoma Station." We're going to take it easy this time. I haven't been out in a couple weeks, so I want to hear the thrum of the engines and enjoy the time away from Helia Station. So James makes his way up to the Deliverance, sits in the very comfortable, well-worn pilot seat. He likes to take them out. He likes to take the ship out manually. His AI could, the AIs on the Deliverance could definitely take it out if James had wanted to. The ship could actually drive itself, but James likes to feel useful, to feel like he still has some control, as he's had no control for the past couple weeks, being at the whims of not being able to leave the station. So takes it out smoothly. He understands every little gravity ripple, every little navigational hazard. The ship responds to him with masterful control. He's definitely somebody who understands the Deliverance, and nobody could do it better, according to him. And so I think at this point, this is as good a time as any in the storyline for us to. I hope you enjoy. Would love to hear your feedback. If you can click that bell at the bottom, as most people who do stuff on YouTube, it's word of mouth advertising. I'm not working on funding or anything like that. It's just kind of a labor of love. I'm sweating bullets because this has taken me a long time to get up the gumption to do this. So I would appreciate if you could do me a solid and click that button, click the like and subscribe, and tell your friends if you've enjoyed the content. And if you've got any feedback, please leave tactful feedback, and we'll take it in the manner it was meant.